What a turnaround for Roy Moore. It was just about 3 weeks ago when the sexual misconduct allegations were first reported by the Washington Post and then other outlets that the GOP was running away from this guy, the Alabama Senate candidate. President Trump said through his spokeswoman that if the allegations were true, that Judge Moore should step aside. Mitch McConnell tried to force him out of the race, said that if he did win, suggested the Senate would expel him through ethics committee hearings. It was not looking good, at least in terms of Republican support. Now, they're kissing and making up. The president has formally endorsed Roy Moore in a phone call to the former judge and in public statements and on Twitter. He had been kind of moving in that direction by attacking his Democratic opponent, Doug Jones, but now it's official. Mitch McConnell has kind of changed his tune. Well, it's up to the people of Alabama. No more talk of expulsion. So what happened? Well, one of the things that happened is Moore had no reason to bow out. He didn't owe anything to the Washington establishment, which had opposed him in the primary. And the more he hung on, and the more likely it looked like he was going to win, what should be an absolute safe seat in a red state, the more Trump and some other Republicans came to the view that, well, we may as well hang on to the seat, and if he's going to win anywhere, he may as well get on the train, because as you know, Republicans only have a 52 to 48 advantage in the Senate. But another thing that happened is, as Moore continued his strategy of deny and delay, he continues to argue that all these 9 women who don't know each other, who said that nearly 4 decades ago he either dated them as teenagers or pursued them, or in a couple of cases sexually accosted them. He just said it wasn't true. He attacked the media, attacked the Washington Post. And as time went on, what happened is that the shock value of these allegations began to wear off. And the more the media covered them, the more the media themselves became an issue in the state of Alabama. This worked for Bill Clinton when the Monica Lewinsky story broke, and he said, I did not have sex with that woman in January of 1998. If he had admitted it then, the pressure for him to resign would have been irresistible. But by the time that Clinton, about August of that year, testified for a grand jury that, yes, he did have a sexual relation with Monica Lewinsky, people were sick of the saturation coverage. They had absorbed the fact that the president was having a sexual relationship with a former White House intern. The attacks on Ken Starr were taking their toll, and that's what's happened in the Roy Moore case. What the other key factor here, I think, is that originally the white-hot spotlight was just on Moore and the women who were making these accusations, a couple of whom have gone on television. One of whom just the other day told the Washington Post she found a high school graduation card that he had sent her when she was dating him, she says, when she was 17. But what happened is Al Franken came along. John Conyers came along. Suddenly you had Democrats who were battling, and not to mention, you know, the Hollywood types and some of the media types, but you had Democrats on Capitol Hill who were battling very different but nonetheless serious allegations of sexual harassment or sexual misconduct. Just yesterday, John Conyers, the 88-year-old dean of the House, finally resigning, announcing his resignation, and this was about a week after one of his accusers, former deputy chief of staff, went on the Today Show. I think that turned the tide, turned Nancy Pelosi against him. Conyers now stepping down. But the more that there were other allegations against other candidates, the more it kind of muddied the waters, and it just seemed like, well, maybe this is not all that uncommon with politicians, even though the allegations against Moore, which again he denies, he vehemently denies, in fact he says he's never met these women, are of a much more serious nature because the women say they were teenagers, in one case as young as 14 at the time. So what you're seeing here is cold political reality. Republicans want to hold on to the seat. They think Moore is going to win anyway. The stunning nature of the allegations has become more like political background noise. Therefore, the party is closing ranks, led by the president. Once the president got on board, the Republican National Committee, which had yanked the funding from Moore's campaign about 3 weeks ago, now back on board because the president basically controls the RNC. So now you'd have to say, although it's hard to predict in a low turnout special election next week just what will happen, that Roy Moore is probably the overwhelming favorite to win a Senate seat, and to win it with support from some of the very Republicans and the man in the White House who were at the very least distancing themselves when things did not look good. Now they're singing a different tune.